Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with Gambit #1. This was the first miniseries that they ever released. And man, when you go back and read this, it's such good storytelling. It's a shame that all the other solo Gambit series that they tried didn't work out like this one did. Because, yeah, good reading and then just a classic cover right here. Now, the print date on this was December 1993. So let's go ahead and go through it, shall we? So I kind of like that we start out with sort of, it's like a New Orleans boogeyman, essentially. And it says, Creole mothers in the French quarters of New Orleans tell the story of the strange, dark man who rolls in with the fog off the Mississippi once every 7 years. The legends is used to frighten bad little children. The few people have ever actually laid their eyes upon the stranger. But all who have grown up on the streets remember the tales heard on their mama's knees. The tales of the tithe collector. He walks the streets, traveled by few, but the most foolhardy of tourists. Far away from Bourbon Street and the sound of jazz bands, it's been 7 years. Time for another business transaction. Woe to any who interfere with the tithing. The tithing collector is going to get you if you don't be good, child. Remember your mama's words and live. So I just love how they build that up. And then right off the bat, then we get, tension and stakes right off the bat. We see this silhouette, and it kind of looks like Carnage, but obviously it's not because this is the next book. But just, the blood on the fingers. And he goes, it's the way of the Assassin's Guild. The peace is off. Time for all the thief families to die. So you kind of get an idea of what we're going for in this story. And then we're treated to this really gorgeous page of Gambit and Rogue training in the danger room. And it says tithing. And this is Howard Mackie doing the story, Lee Weeks doing the art, Klaus Janson doing the inks, Steve Buccoletto colors, Richard Starking's letter, Bob Harris the editor, and Tom DeFalco editor-in-chief. So we get an all-star cast on this book. And now what I like here with the training between Rogue and Gambit is it's in a sense kind of, it focuses more on their idea of their relationship. And I like how Weeks is able to take the artwork and show the tension on their faces, and then, of course, the stakes that are going on in the, the danger room. There's a lot of tension going on between them because Gambit's kind of flirting with her and Rogue's trying to take this serious. And then we get a masked stranger looking on at the mansion, so that gets some build up there. And now you see that Storm's trying to increase the power of the training. And, she's saying, you sure about this, Storm? Emotions been running high between the Cajun and Rogue. He's like, given their unresolved romantic status. Don't you think we're pushing it? And, Storm just basically says that's the idea of this. We have to see if they can hack it as one of the team. Wolverine thinks it's kind of cold. And then I like how Storm, because, she was an effective leader of the X-Men all through the Claremont era, even without her powers. So I like that she's kind of taken a page from Cyclops and learns when, there's times to be friends and when there's time for business. And she goes, Wolverine's saying, I think it's mighty cold, but necessary. Excuse me, guys. So again, we get some more backstory on the stranger. I don't really want to go into that and tear it apart, or not tear it apart, but, spoil it. That's the word I'm looking for. And again, Gambit's flirting with Rogue here in the danger room. And then we start seeing imminent danger coming at him. And, Rogue's like, Remy! And Storm's like, I'm going to stop it because, she sees that things are getting a little out of hand and Gambit's distracted. And I like that Wolverine stops her and he goes, you wanted to see how they operate under combat directions. Let's see how it plays out. So you get some really nice artwork. But I don't want to give away stuff about that. But Gambit tries to joke it off. And he's talking about how life is a game, and Rogue's trying to say this isn't a game. But anyways, as he's kind of teasing with her, he goes, we got company. And he takes off. And what happens, let me show the page. I skipped one too many pages. I love the stealth that Remy has, because he's supposed to be part of the Thieves Guild. And one thing that I wanted to reference later, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it up now. A lot of what happened in the 90s run of X-Men #8, this is kind of like the aftermath of what happened in this book. So here we see Gambit sneaking up in the shadows, and you come to find out that this silhouetted stranger is Gambit's brother, Henry. And he goes, "You need to come home, Remy." And he goes, "Well, let's go talk outside." And Wolverine's like, "How'd they breach our security?" And Rogue's kind of asking all these questions. And he's like, "We all have our secret share. Now, if you excuse us, we need to catch up on old times." And so Henry brings up something about Julian. Something happened to Julian in X-Men 8. If you're wondering what happened, read that and then read this. It makes a little more sense that way. So Gambit's already kind of thrown off about that. Now, something happens with Henry that makes Gambit run off into the night. And, the X-Men want to join him, but he goes, "I have to take this on my own." And, Rogue, even though at this point, this is early X-Men, so their relationship's not as yet defined as we all know it nowadays. So she wants to go and help him, and Wolverine says, "Leave him alone. This is a blood debt." And then before we get any more of that, we cut back to New Orleans, we get the Thieves Guild, and we get some more talk about the tithing, something called the elixir, and we get some talk about Remy and how people think he's too brash and hot-headed. And then we cut down to this character, and her name is Kandra. For those of you longtime X-Men readers like I am, this is the first appearance of Kandra, the X-Ternal. And then, she's sitting here on it, looking out at the Parisian skyline. And then we see her snuggling up with Gideon. Both of them are X-Ternals. Both of them are immortal. Gideon's first appearance was New Mutants 98, which we will go over at another time, because I looked at my backups and that video is gone. So I'm going to have to recut it. So it's like, crap. So yeah, I just kind of like that again, just how everything is starting to build up of what this story is about, and everything starts to take shape and make sense. And of course, we get some cool little shows right here, like where Gambit produces a pickpocket. He goes, "This would be hard if your pursuer was not a thief and a mutant. Picking a lock was never so easy." And you just see it explode, so it's like, why even use the pick? So this is Gambit on the pursuer of the assassins, of what happened with his brother, which, again, if you want to see everything in detail, read the book. I didn't want to spoil that part. Now, what I like is, while this is happening, Wolverine and Rogue are waiting for Gambit to come back. And she goes, "I love him, Wolverine. You don't have to be a telepath to have that figured out, darling. This thing he's doing tonight, he's got to do it alone." Now check out the way how the art team and Howard Mackie, using the words, how they make this hit, how this resonates. He looks at her and he goes, "But after tonight, don't let him be alone again. There's something between you two. Mariko and I had the same. Don't want to wait until conditions are perfect. Because with the likes of us, they never are." Whew, that kind of gives you some goosebumps right there. And I don't want to go any more into the book and spoil it. I want to end it right there. This was a great comic book. I see this book, I remember seeing it kind of in a dollar bin there for a while. And now, I go to local comic shops and I can't seem to find it. So even if, so I'll say, if you guys have enjoyed this comic review, make sure to go to your local comic shop and see if they can kind of help, hunt it down for you. If not, then you may have to go the unconventional route like I did and had to order it online. But yeah, Gambit #1. I like what they're trying to do with the Thieves Guild and the Assassins Guild, even though every time I read it, it reminds me of Skyrim. But yeah, it's good stuff. It really goes into Remy's wife, Belladonna, and her brother, Julian, who were in X-Men #8, so make sure to check out that book as well. A lot of good action, great artwork, and just a great story overall. And if you guys have enjoyed this review, we definitely appreciate it if you take a minute to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Cajun bell next to subscribe, then when we upload content, you guys will get notified and you can come to the channel. And we'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you all so much for stopping by and checking out the video. I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, And happy hunting, true believers.